हेलो दोस्तों, बिजनेस पॉइंट में आपका स्वागत है। और अभी हम कर रहे हैं इकोनॉमिक्स का चैप्टर 5 10th क्लास का। ठीक है। कंज्यूमर राइट्स। द कॉलेज यू सी below contains some new clippings of consumer disputes redressal commission verdicts. Why did the people go to these organizations in these cases? These verdicts came about because some people persisted and struggled to get justice. In what ways were they denied justice? More importantly, what are the ways in which they can exercise their rights as consumers to get a fair deal from the sellers when they felt they had been denied a just treatment? The consumer in the marketplace. We participate in the market both as producers and consumers. As producers of goods and services, we could be working in any of the sectors discussed earlier, such as agriculture, industry, or services. Consumers participate in the market when they purchase goods and services that they need. These are the final goods that people has consumer use. In the preceding chapters, we discussed the need for rules and regulations or steps that would promote development. These could be for the protection of workers in the unorganized sector or to protect people from high interest rates charged by moneylenders in the informal sector. Similarly, rules and regulations are also required for protecting the environment. For example, moneylenders are moneylenders in the informal sector that you read about in chapter 3 adopt various tricks to bind the borrower. They could make the producer sell the produce to them at a low rate in return for a timely loan. They could force a small farmer like Swapna to sell her land to pay back the loan. Similarly, many people who work in the unorganized sector have to work at a low wage and accept conditions that are not fair and are also often harmful to their health. To prevent such exploitations, we have talked of rules and regulations for their protection. There are unorganization there are organizations that have struggled for long to ensure that these rules are followed. He said the purposely made it so it would fall apart after a few months so that I will buy a new one. Likewise, rules and regulations are required for the protection of the consumers in the marketplace. Individual consumers often find themselves in a weak position whenever there is a complaint regarding a good or service that had been bought. The seller tries to shift all the responsibility on the buyer. Their position usually is, if you did not like what you bought, please go elsewhere, as if the seller has no responsibility once a sale is completed. The consumer movement, as we shall discuss later, is an effort to change this situation. Exploitation in the marketplace happens in various ways. For example, sometimes traders indulge in unfair trade practices, such as when shopkeepers wait less than what they should, or when traders add charges that were not mentioned before, or when adulterated, defective goods are sold. Markets do not work in a fair manner when producers are few and powerful, whereas consumers purchase in so small amounts and are scattered. This happens especially when large companies are producing these goods. These companies with huge wealth, power, and reach can manipulate the market in various ways. At times, false information is passed on through the media and other sources to attract consumers. For example, a company for years sold powder milk for babies all over all over the world as the most scientific product, claiming this to be better than mother's milk. It took years of struggle before the company was forced. to accept that it had been making false claims. Similarly, a long battle had to be fought with court cases to make cigarette manufacturing companies accept that their product could cause cancer. Hence, there is a need for rules and regulations to ensure protection for consumers. Smoke. Everyone knows tobacco kills people, but who can say that tobacco companies should not be free to sell tobacco? Consumer movement. The consumer movement arose. इसका मतलब क्या आता है? उत्पन्न हुआ. Out of dissatisfaction of the consumers has many unfair practices were being indulged in by the sellers. लिप्त हो जाना. There was no legal system available to consumers to protect them from exploitation in the marketplace. For a long time, when a consumer was not happy with a particular brand, product, or shop, he or she generally avoided buying that brand product or would stop purchasing from that shop. It was presumed that it was the responsibility of consumers to be careful while buying a commodity or service. It took many years for organizations in India and around the world to create awareness amongst people. This has also shifted the responsibility of ensuring quality of goods and services of the sellers. In India, the consumer movement has a social force organized with the necessity of protecting and promoting the interest of consumers against unethical and unfair trade practices, rampant food shortage, hoarding, black marketing, adultering of food, and edible oil gave birth to the consumer movement in an organized form in the 1960s. Till the 1970s, consumer organizations were largely engaged in writing articles and holding exhibitions. They formed consumer groups to look into the malpractices in ration shops and overcrowding in the road passenger transport. More recently, India witnessed an upsurge in the number of consumer groups. Consumer International. In 1985, United Nations adopted the UN guidelines for consumer protection. This was a tool for nations to adapt measures to protect consumer and for consumer advocacy group to press their government to do so. At the international level, this had become the foundation for consumer movement. Today, Consumer International has become an umbrella body to over 200 member organizations for over 100 countries. Because of all these efforts, the movement succeeded in bringing pressure on business firms as well as government to correct business conduct which may be unfair and against the interest of consumers at large. A major step taken in 1986 by the Indian government was the en- enactment of the Consumer Protection Act 1986, popularly known as COPRA. You will learn more about COPRA later. Consumer rights. Safety is everyone's right. Reggie's suffering. Reggie Matthew, a healthy boy studying in class 9th, was admitted in a private clinic in Kerala for removal of tonsils. An ENT surgeon performed the tonsillectomy operation under general anesthesia. As a result of improper anesthesia, Reggie showed symptoms of some brain abnormalities because of which he was crippled for life. His father filed a complaint in the State Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, claiming compensation of rupees 5 lakh for medical negligence and deficiency in service. The State Commission, saying that the evidence was not sufficient, dismissed it. Reggie's father appealed again in the National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission located in New Delhi. The National Commission, after looking into the complaint, held the hospital responsible for medical negligence and directed it to pay the compensation. Reggie's suffering shows how a hospital, due to negligence by the doctors and staff in giving anesthesia, crippled a student for life. While using many goods and services, we as consumers have the right to be protected against the marketing of goods and delivery of services that are hazards to life and property. Producers need to strictly follow the required safety rules and regulations. There are many goods and services that we purchase that require special attention to safety. For example, pressure cookers have a safety valve which, if it is defective, can cause a serious accident. The manufacturers of the safety valve has to ensure high quality. You also need public or government action to see that this quality is maintained. However, we do find bad quality products in the market because the supervision of these rules is weak and the consumer movement is also not strong enough. Information about goods and services. When you buy any commodity, you will find certain details given on the packaging. These details are about ingredients, used price, batch, number, date of manufacturer, expiry date, and the address of the manufacturer. When we buy medicines on the packets, you might find directions for proper use and information relating to side effects and risks associated with uses of that medicine. When you buy garments, you will find information on instructions for washing. Why is it that rules have been made so that the, the manufacturer displays this information? It is because consumers have the right to be informed about the particulars of goods and services that they purchase. Consumers can then complain and ask for compensation or replacement if the product proves to be defective in any manner. For example, if we buy product and find it defective well within the expiry period, we can ask for a replacement. If the expiry period was not printed, the manufacturer would blame the shopkeeper and will not accept the responsibility. If people sell medicines that have expired, serve action can be taken against them. Similarly, one can protest and complain if someone sells a good at more than the printed price on the packet. This is indicated by MRP, maximum retail price. In fact, consumers can bargain with the seller to sell at less than the MRP. In recent times, the right to information has been expanded to cover various services provided by the government. In October 2005, the Government of India enacted a law popularly known as RTI, Right to Information Act, which ensures its citizens all the information about the functions of government departments. The effect of the RTI Act can be understood from the following cases. Waiting. Amrita, an engineering graduate, after submitting all the certificates and attending the interviews for a job in a government department, did not receive any news of the result. The officials also refused to comply with her queries. She therefore filed an application using the RTA Act saying that it was her right to know the result in an res- reasonable time so that she could plan her future. She was not only informed about the reasons for delay in the declaration of results but also got her call letter for appointment as she performed well in the interview. When choice is denied, Rami, a student of Ansari Nagar, joined a two-year course at a local coaching institute for professional courses in New Delhi. At the time of joining the course, she paid the fees 61,020 as lump sum for the entire course of 2 years. However, she decided to opt out of the course at end of 1 year as she found that the quality of teaching was not up to the mark. When she asked for a refund of the fee for 1 year, it was denied to her. When she filed the case in the District Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, the commission directed the institute to refund 28,000, saying that she had the right to choose. The institute again appealed in State Consumer Commission. The State Commission upheld the District Commission's direction and further fined the institute 25,000 for a frivolous appeal. It also directed the institute to pay 7,000 as compensation litigation cost. The State Commission also restrained all the educational and professional institutions in the state for charging fees from students for the entire duration of the course in advance, and that too at one go. Any violation of this order may invite penalties and imprisonment, the Commission said. What do we understand from this incident? Any consumer who receives a service in whatever capacity, regardless of age, gender, and nature of service, has the right to choose whether to continue to receive the service. Suppose you want to buy toothpaste, and the shop owner says that she can sell the toothpaste only if you buy a toothbrush. If you are not interested in buying the brush, your right to choice is denied. Similarly, sometimes gas supply dealers insist that you have to buy the stove from them when you take a new connection. In this way, many a times you are forced to buy things that you may not wish to, or and you are left with no choice. Where should consumers go to get justice? Read again the cases of Reggie Matthew and Abirami given earlier in the chapter. These are some explains in which consumers are denied their rights. Such instances occur quite often in country. Where should these consumers go to get justice? Consumers have the right to seek redressal against unfair trade practices and exploitation. If any damage is done to a consumer, she has the right to get compensation depending on the degree of damage. There is a need to provide an easy and effective public system by which this can be done. The consumer can file a complaint before the appropriate consumer forum on his and her own with or without the service of lawyers. You might be interested in knowing how an aggrieved person gets his or her compensation. Let us take the case of Prakash. He had sent a money order to his village for his daughter's marriage. The money did not reach his daughter at the time when she needed it, nor did it reach. Months later, Prakash filed a case in a district level consumer dispute redressal commission in New Delhi. All the steps he undertook are illustrated here. These days, consumer has an individual or has a group called class action suit. File a complaint both physically or through internet and conduct the case through video conferencing. ये पूरी कहानी है कौन कहाँ जाता है क्या करता है देख लेते हैं चलो कहानी भी पढ़ लेते हैं Prakash goes to the post office to send money order to his daughter. Prakash comes to know that the money has not reached his daughter. Prakash inquires about the money order in the post office. The post office does not respond to the query satisfactory. Prakash goes to the local consumer protection counseling for advice. Prakash goes to consumer dispute redressal commission to file a case. He files a registration form. The commission sends notice to the other party. He himself read the case in the commission office. The commission office judge verifies the documents and hears the arguments of both the aggrieved party and the other party. The judge announces the disputes redressal commission verdict. और इसके बाद ये पढ़ेंगे अब कल